Welcome back to the Breakfast Club. Thank you so much for staying with us. Our person of interest today is a journalist and author, Prince Mathews Thomas, the man behind this one, the SIS Story. His book tracks the rise of RK Sinha and the building of one of India's biggest security and services companies. He cuts through the noise to show the decisions, the leadership and the pivotal moments that have shaped SIS into what it is today. He's known for his clear analysis, sharp reporting and the ability to decode India's biggest corporate stories with simplicity and depth. And he's written extensively on major business houses, economic trends and forces that shape India. Work that has earned him a reputation for insight and credibility. And this latest project, this book that I'm holding right here, the SIS Story, brings that same clarity to the rise of one of India's largest security and services companies, tracing the leadership choices, the risks and the scale of an organization that now spans continents. Today he joins us to take us inside the making of SIS and the story behind the success. Prince Mathews Thomas, thank you so much for joining us in the studio this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, I have to begin by asking you, how did you come up with this book? How did you decide that this is the story that you wanted to focus on?
The first time I came across SIS was about 13 years ago when I was doing this writing for Forbes India. And I met Shri Ravindra Kishore Sinha and his son Rituraj. And by then itself, they had made quite a mark. They were just off an acquisition in Australia. And this was a company which was 5 times the size of SIS. So it was quite an incredibly gusty acquisition at that time. And that was the attention that got them. And I wrote about the acquisition that they had done. And since then I've been tracking them. They got listed on the stock exchanges in 2017. So they have quite a following among investors too. And this year marks the 50th year since the company was founded. And I thought that the journey from interiors of Bihar to across India, now international, and it is the largest services company in India. It is the largest services company in Australia, among the largest in New Zealand, Singapore. So you don't find such stories often, where a company that started off a garage from Patna has become a multinational services company out of India. And given the milestone of this year, we all thought that this is a great, rich material for a book. And these 50 years actually span across the evolution of Indian economy too, right from the license Raj to the liberalization of the 90s to where India is today among the largest economies in the world. And SIS growth and journey has almost mirrored that growth in India. And that's why we thought, this is a business story, an entrepreneur story. It's also a story about how the business makes a transition from a first generation to second generation. So a lot of things to learn for anyone here. And I think at the end of the story, end of the day, it's a very entertaining story too for anyone to read.
Right, and just to expand on that a little more,
sure.
What really got you hooked? Was it the man? Was it the madness? Was it the scale? What really got you hooked?
Actually, the man himself, because Ravindra Kishore, he's not from a business family. So he didn't grow up listening to business stories about how businesses were done. And he didn't have, like you call today in the startup world, the seed money to start a business. And he was an accidental entrepreneur. He was actually a journalist. It just happened that after he lost his job, and he was very close to Jayaprakash Narayan, a very well-known political leader of that time. And Jayaprakash Narayan gave him that idea, why don't you help retired army personnel find jobs? And this is how it started. It started from a social good about trying to help others. But because he wanted to do this well, he formed a business. And when you start a business, you have to follow regulations, you have to have a structure to it. And just slowly, organically, it built. And he was not an MBA student, but he had that very raw entrepreneurial spirit and the instinct and the risk-taking ability, which helped him take a lot of decisions that may seem right out of management books. But I think it was coming from a very rustic, instinct-filled entrepreneur. And through these 50 years, I think he's taken a lot of risk, a lot of unusual calls, and a lot of passion in people. And because this is a people-centric business, SIS employs about 3 lakh people. It is among the top 5 companies in the country to employ among the largest number of people. So quite a journey, So he himself, his story, and then his son Rituraj Sinha, who took over about 25 years ago, right in the almost in the middle of this 50 years journey. That transition from an Indian company to a multinational and then diversifying into various other verticals, that happened under Rituraj. So both Mr. Sinha and Rituraj, quite exceptional entrepreneurs, and it's very unusual to find 2 generations of very good entrepreneurs in the same family.
Right, and in fact I was reading some excerpts where you mentioned generational succession as well, and how that is something that really was different about this story. That being said, what do you think surprised you most about the hustle years when you talk about setting up the SIS? What was the one thing that stood out to you?
What amazed me was that, some of these management fundas that we read, usually come from business books of experience from of entrepreneurs from the US or from Europe. But when you read about him, when I researched about him, right from the 60s and the 70s, even before he's heard about these companies like Hewlett Packard, he was doing things in a way that defined entrepreneurship globally. Be it starting a training academy, which was unheard of not just in India but even the global security services industry, or bringing in computers. This is in the 1980s when computers were not very common. And he brought all that to a security company, which was unheard of, because we think a security company is a neighborhood business. But he's really scaled it beyond Bihar, beyond India. And I think his story is absolutely amazing, because there are instances in the book, and you would read, where he's talking about personal risk and challenges that he had to take. I think that's quite exceptional here.
Of course, you've had to do a lot of research, you've had a lot of sit-downs with them as well. Is there any anecdote of Mr. Sinha that you think our viewers should know about?
Well, there is one, because in the initial years, much of the services that the SIS was rendering was for all industrial units, and these were in the interiors, and these could be your factories, manufacturing setups, and also mining mines. And as we know, most of the mines is also an area where a lot of mafias are there.
Right.
So there is one instance in the book where he himself goes, Ravindra Kishore Sinha, and engages with the mafia don, because this mafia guy was troubling his client. So it's quite an insightful way of how he did business, went out of his way to help his client, because it was not his brief to go and meet the the local mafia guy. But he does that. He engages with him, convinces this mafia guy to lay off his client. And this interaction between the two, where this youngster and no one who is going and talking to the mafia guy in his own den, that is quite an exceptional, I think, chapter out of the book. And if you read that, there's a lot of color, there's a lot of risk-taking ability that comes through, and also plain speak. I think that that really underlined the way he did his business.
All right, and for our viewers, if you had to tell them something about the process, what your learnings were in this entire process, I believe you only had about less than a year to write this.
That's right.
What would you tell them?
I think it was about keeping the 2 personalities in the center of the story, and that I think also helped me structure the book, which is about Ravindra Kishore Sinha and Rituraj Sinha, and both of them are exceptional personalities. And I think if we concentrate on sticking to the basics and build the story around the characters that you have, they are like the heroes of the story of this book. And that actually helped me. And like you said, usually books like this take about a couple of years. We had around 11 months to do it.
Right.
And almost 60 interactions and many hours of transcriptions and things like that. So the process was very intense. And what helped was, I think, the stories of Ravindra Kishore Sinha and Rituraj Sinha. And that kind of helped push me also kind of do the book here.
All right, and that was a Herculean feat, of course, and many congratulations to you for finally having gotten this done. This is out there now, the SIS story, how an accidental entrepreneur from Bihar built a global services conglomerate. Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us on The Breakfast Club. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks so much for having me.